Hello to you as you're all getting in. So we're going to record the meeting. So and we'll be posting that tomorrow, just so that if folks, really, if people have questions or follow-ups, or those who just couldn't attend tonight, then maybe you'll go off and tell people and they'll tell more and they can listen in to find out what happens. It's an information session, so we're going to learn a lot today. How about 7:03? I'll sort of officially start then. So my name is Michael Kukta. I'm the chair of the Zorra Community Policing Committee, and I got a bunch of my committee members around here. Well, I'm just seeing Jesse and Derek and Sheila and who else we got here. I think Katie was in here. I don't have everyone. We got the double screen thing going here. So, is anybody new to Zoom? Have you been to one of these meetings before? Right? They're not too, you're new. Okay, well, Lori, and I see you there. So, you can leave yourselves on mute. So what I'd suggest is, just as a protocol, we leave your mics on mute. Whether or not you put your camera on is up to you. It's what you feel comfortable with. And a couple of ways to if you want to ask a question, raise your hand and kind of wave like that. That works. You can also, if you go way down to the bottom, there's this thing called reactions, and you can put the old raise hand. See my hand came up there. I raised my hand, and that's a gentle way of sort of put your hand up and then be acknowledged, and I'll try to kind of wave at you, let you know you're there. And then as you raise your hands, I'll just keep a little speaker list, and I'll get to you through the list as we go. So our featured speaker today is Patty Cole with the OPP. She's up top there. You want to wave there, Patty? Hello. And we also have, is Mike here as well? Oh, he's on the other screens. Yeah, I'm looking at other screens. You can click back and forth. Mike Salonen, he's also with us from the OPP. There he is up top. There, he moved around. Now, do we have some council folks? Marcus Ryan is with us, and I think Katie is also here. And I don't know who else is. Let's see who I got here. I see a bunch of us here. Oh, Betty, you're on the committee too. Hello, you're there. Amanda. All right, lots of great folks. So welcome. Let's see, what else do I have? So mute. All right, I'll just keep you mute. Then the background noise doesn't get into the way. And let's see. If you can put your real names on, that way we know who's speaking. We can do some follow-up if we need to. I think everyone's got their names in there, so I figured that out. And I don't know, I think we're pretty well good to start. We will be, now, if I could, sometimes these meetings, a lot of people want to speak. I will get to them in order, but we'll keep it, try to keep, be patient with our time. And if we don't get enough out of this info session, well, we have another session, or we also can meet with our community policing community to do follow-up from this. But this was to be a broader way to bring the community in. We came this meeting, discussions at our committee said, well, what are these community watches all about? Or what are some concerns in the community? And the way to start with that is we met with the committee, and we thought it would be good to get some information. And the thing about Community Watch is that it is, the OPP will introduce us to it, and it's to help them. And right now, I'm really interested in finding out about it. So I'll stop talking and I'll hand it over to Patty and say, take it away. We'll look forward to hearing from you and learning about what these community watches are and what they do. So I'll leave it to you. And I'll mute while I let you talk.
Hi there, everybody. I'm not sure if Mike had something to say, but it's all good if he's given me the go ahead to start. Okay, he's giving me the thumbs up. So I just want to say thank you again. My name is Patty Cote. I'm with the OPP, and I've been with the OPP between Oxford and Norfolk counties for 20 plus years. So in a few months, I'll be celebrating my 21st anniversary. I'm a constable, and I'm currently the Community Safety and Media Relations Officer for Oxford County. So today we're going to talk about Community Watch, and I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I can share with everybody that's joining. So if you'll mind the just the technology and getting it set up here for half a second, I'll be able to share that so that everybody can see what I'm looking at here. And hopefully everybody can see that. Just get it set up here. Okay.
Yes, we can see it. Looks great, Patty.
Okay. So I was asked about doing a presentation about Community Watch. I understand that you guys have your community policing group, and that's fantastic. So community watch, there's different programs, as you can see. I'm going to try not to just read, because I know you guys can read, okay? But essentially we have neighborhood watch, we have cottage watch, and of course we have you know, our community watch in of itself. So all of them are a crime prevention program, so to speak, where we work with community members, and you know, it's not, it's more a community-driven program as opposed to a police-driven program. So where would we use these, you know, community watch or neighborhood watch programs, or anywhere where there's a need to reduce crime? And I mean, some people might even say that there's a need to reduce crime always. And you know, that's an unfortunate thing, that there's a lot of people out there that are doing criminal activity. So, but the biggest point is that, you know, you need to have volunteers to run these committees, okay? Because without volunteers, we're kind of, you know, we're kind of strapped. We don't have the ability to make these programs work if we don't have the volunteers. So the crime triangle, as you see, essentially, you know, there's a desire for criminals to, you know, commit crimes, and of course it's a challenge on a regular basis to you know, remove that that desire. You know, the criminal's ability to commit a crime, when a criminal is determined, they're going to be very creative. They're going to utilize telephones. They're going to utilize the internet. They're going to overcome any disabilities that might, you know, be in front of them, doing anything they can to victimize another person. What motivates a criminal? There's all kinds of reasons, and I mean, we could probably talk all day about, you know, what motivates a criminal. But and then the other corner of the triangle is the opportunity. The criminal has an opportunity to commit a crime, and of course we as our community members, because of where we live, we can take that appropriate action to prevent it. You know, by removing that opportunity for crime to occur, by awareness, education, action, then, you know, we can kind of, you know, break that triangle. What is Community Watch? Well, it's a grassroots of crime prevention. It's a partnership, of course, with the police and the community members. I don't know if your committee does citizens on patrol, but essentially Community Watch would be the extra eyes and ears for the police. It's definitely not a program where you would take the law into your own hands. And, you know, it is unfortunate. We as humans like to share information, otherwise known as gossip. And of course, we're Community Watch is not Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers is its own program, and of course we have Crime Stoppers here in Oxford, and the number is right there on your screen. It's an anonymous program where you can call in, you can go on the website to report crime. And the one thing that I think I need to make sure that everybody is aware of is that if there's a crime happening right now, Crime Stoppers isn't the appropriate way to report. It's because you need somebody to act right now. And although Crime Stoppers will get tips and the information that you would give to them, they might not get it right away, depending on what time of day and who's monitoring, you know, the tips. Up to $2,000 reward for information on and a successful arrest or conviction for any individual that the police deal with. Anonymous meaning they don't subscribe to call display. They will never ask you your name, your address, or anything about you personally. In fact, you know, that's one of the things that they do is they say, have you ever used Crime Stoppers before? And we want to make sure that we keep you anonymous. So please don't tell me your name. Please don't tell me where you live or anything about you. Okay. So who is Community Watch? And I think we've kind of determined that it's the, you know, the joint efforts of the police, the people in the community, and the volunteers that get, you know, join the group and get involved. Community Watch is, oh, I think I got myself ahead there. I think I went 2 screens, sorry. There we go. All right. So Community Watch, you know, is community engagement by recognizing your role in the community, a partnership with safety in mind. Residents can take ownership of their role in contributing to a safer and healthy community. The goal is to reduce calls for service, educate other people in the community, not just the people that are part of the, you know, the Community Watch board or committee itself. We want people to be confident, to, you know, take some ownership of their community. You know, this is where I live. I want it to be safe. We want, you know, to build bridges between the people that live in the community, the police, you know, the government officials, and of course, any agencies. Now, those agencies we have, you know, we could, the list of agencies that we have is incredible right here in Oxford County. So, so the core component of all of these programs is commitment. If we don't have the commitment from people that want some, you know, resolution and action, you know, it would be less likely to be successful. But of course, all of these programs, we the police support. You know, the police are working every day and every night, and we try to be in all of the places where we know people want us, but that's just, you know, it's almost impossible because there's more people, unfortunately, doing things that we would prefer them not to do than there are not, you know, us. So the benefits, I guess, of Community Watch, you want to be able to know what's sort of normal in your community. And, you know, just think about where you live right now, whether you live in a town or a rural area and you live on a concession road. Take note of what's kind of normal. And I use an example is that, you know, if you do live in town and, you know, the police drive by at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and, you know, that's sort of something that you would be used to seeing. And, but there's a white van parked in the driveway next door, which normally isn't there. This is, you know, we say that, you know, your spidey senses might, you know, go up because something isn't normal. So the more things you know about how normal things are, and I get it, people don't want to necessarily get involved for their own reasons, but if something just doesn't seem right, I very highly encourage you to just make the call, and then the police can come and check it out. And you know, it might be okay. It might be just a contractor or something that is working next door. But what if it wasn't, right? You know, we want people to feel comfortable talking to the police and reporting things to the police if that's what it takes. We don't want people to be like before. We don't want them to be vigilantes. We don't want people to, you know, step over that line and take the law into their hands. But you know, there are certain things that some people will feel comfortable saying and others won't. So, I mean, get to know your neighbors and, you know, develop some friendships, look out for each other, you know, report suspicious activity, as I just mentioned. Get out and about. If you're out and about, you might see things that you wouldn't normally see, but when you're driving home, when you're leaving for work in the morning, or if you're a shift worker, anything that just looks out of place is something that you might notice. You might not realize it until like later that day, or the next morning or something, but if it's still not quite right, then let us know. Okay, or ask your other neighbor, ask around, was this normal? It's okay to do that, right? So not all crime is reported to the police, of course. We get calls for mischiefs and all kinds of, well, I don't know if the right word would be petty, but minor mischiefs or minor crimes, but they're still crimes. And we get that people might not want to report because they would be embarrassed, or they're fearing retaliation if the person they're reporting on finds out it was them. But of course, we want you to feel comfortable. The benefits of reporting crime or suspicious activity, of course, is we can keep track of that. And if it's just for reporting purposes, we have analysts that can grab information from our reports and from different tools that we use behind the scenes. And then we can come together and say, okay, well, we've got a problem here, or we have a problem there, and then come up with a plan on what we're going to do about it. So the kinds of crime to report, of course, any property crime, of course, violent crime, crimes that are occurring right now, and crimes that have already occurred, anything that's ongoing. So of course, when do you call 911? You call 911 if somebody's, in harm's way. If there's an impaired driver, these are some good examples. Non-emergency number is there on the screen, 1-888-310-1122. And then of course, Crime Stoppers is the 1-888-222-8477. Now, if you are like a lot of us, you just have a cell phone now. A lot of people don't have landlines. So star 677 on your cell phone will get you through to our non-emergency dispatchers as well. Okay, so star 677 or star OPP, okay, on your cell phone. So what do you say? What if you don't want a cruiser to pull up in your driveway? And that's okay, we won't. If you don't want us to come to your house, you just want a phone call, we'll do that.
Patty, I put my hand up to ask a question. I want you to go back one slide.
Yep.
Just a note. So if you're not sure whether you should call 911, I'm not sure whether this is an emergency or not. What is your suggestion? I don't know.
So I think that if you think that there's a possibility for somebody to get hurt, like if there's that type of element to it, somebody's in danger, and I use the example of an impaired driver because there's a possibility of somebody being hurt because that person's driving all over the road. There's a potential for a crash, or even that person or anybody that might be in that vehicle as well. So I think 911 is for emergencies, and anywhere where somebody's in harm's way or about to be or could be, because of the nature of it, that's when you should call 911.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So if you happen to see a crime, we work 24/7. After reporting to the police, then if the community watch program is gets up and running, it's important for that information to be shared with community watch, whether you guys connect by email or phone. Then that chairperson would not ask any of your personal information, but the purpose of that would be so that they can share it with everybody else. And like if you got information that somebody's stealing things in your neighborhood, and what to look out for. You're looking out for a light green minivan with a something on the window like a decal or whatever. These are things that would be important to know. Okay, I used to work at the bank years ago, and so when we did our training at the bank, it was a big part of, if somebody was to rob the bank, what you should do as the bank teller. Just like observe as much as you can, pay attention to details, hair color, if they're close enough, eye color, what they're wearing, approximately how tall they are, how much they might weigh. If you're talking about a vehicle, just particulars. If that's all we can get, then that's what we can go by, because you don't know that we might already have similar information from a previous report, right? And so, and then of course, with all of that information, we would be able to have a better chance of tracking whoever this is down, right? So if you do get a community watch program up and running, the OPP would want to know who's involved, like who. So if it's myself, and I'm just looking at some names on the screen. If it's Michael, if it's Derek and Darren, and then a few other names, we as the OPP would want to know that you are a community watch member. Get to know the people in your community, and let them know who you are, what you're doing, what your role is, and they might feel more comfortable coming to you than coming to the police right away. It's hard to say. I don't want to speak for everybody, and there's definitely not a blanket for any of that. But tell your neighbors that this is what you're doing and this is what your role is. Of course, the more people that are involved, if they don't want to actually get involved, then at least they're aware. Okay, we want them to know. Just some safety tips. If you're home alone, make your presence known. Don't enter an insecure residence. If there's an issue, call 911. Lock up and light up. Make sure you lock up your homes, cars, garages, and all that kind of stuff. And these are things that you can share with the people in your communities. This is a little bit, this screen here is something that we would call crime prevention through environmental design. By cutting back your shrubs and your trees, it allows you to see out of your windows and your doors just as well if people are trying to look in, right? But the one thing I find is a lot of people just seem to turn off all their lights when it's time for bed. I highly recommend motion lights, or like leaving the front door light on, or even the back door light on. So because if there's a light on outside and you hear something outside and it's dark inside, then you're going to be able to see those people that are outside before they can see you or even realize that you're home. Don't leave any ladders or any other tools, of course, that could be used to break into your house laying around outside. Highly recommend not leaving a house key, like that spare key under the rock, because it's so well known that people will look in the oddest of places, and then look at that, there's your key to your house. This last one is unusual, and people might think that, but I mean, if you live in a neighborhood where you're back to back and your yards are back onto another yard, and we get information or whatnot that people have run through the house and gone out the back door, and they've jumped the fence and they're now in the neighbor's yard. The idea of having your house number on the back of the house is so that if we're involved, and we can say, well, we're behind number 25, we know what street we're on, but we're not behind number 25 because it's right on the back of your house. So it's different. I don't know many people that do it, but it's something to think about anyways. Obviously, we don't want anybody leaving valuables and whatnot in your vehicles. If you have a garage door opener, that most of them have that little clip your visor. Some cars have a way to program through the car itself to open your garage. So I would recommend using that, or keep your garage door opener inside your console, like out of sight, out of mind. Okay. I mean, if someone's going to get into your car, if they really, really want to get in there, they're going to make noise and they're going to break glass and they're going to do all what they can to get in there. But if they look in and they don't see anything to begin with, then they're going to move on, and eventually they're going to pack it in for the night. So the less things that we can leave in plain sight for these criminals that are taking the opportunity, because that's what they do, then the less likely that we're going to be victimized. The idea of leaving the unattached license plates in your garage, turn them into the ministry if you're not using them anymore. Because if somebody happens to come into your garage and they see them, those are a valuable item that they will be able to use in further crimes. Operation identification, you can see in the top corner is the engraver, that type of stuff. And I mean, we all do it. We all have TVs, we all have things that we probably could engrave with some sort of an identification number, and probably a lot of us don't do it. But I highly recommend that you consider doing something. Now, sometimes people will just mark them with a marker. Yes, go ahead. I noticed the hand this time.
I just wanted to particularly say my house was broken into twice in 1 month many years ago now.
Okay.
And we had several items we had engraved, and it absolutely worked. It took a long time for the police to finally catch up to the person. They caught them for another crime and found the goods somewhere else. But they absolutely, that was one of the ways that they were able to secure a conviction, was because they found him. I mean, we had since replaced the things, but it was a way they secured a conviction, they said, was that they found them in possession of items with engravings on them that identified them as coming from us. So they were able to definitively prove that they had been stolen items. So just a personal anecdote to support what you're suggesting.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, like the numbers and engravings, we know they can be damaged and marked and eventually scratched off or whatnot. But if they're there in the first place, sometimes the criminals aren't going to take the time to do that, and especially not right away, right? And don't store your jewelry in your bedroom or your cash in your bedroom. No banks under your mattress. Because that's where they're going to look. They're going to go right to a bedroom. That's one of the first places that criminals will go and try and ransack. So I mean, the benefits, we're going to reduce the opportunity for crime to occur, and the participation of everybody in a community is going to be so important that you'll get to know your neighborhood so much better, and you'll know kind of what's going on, what doesn't feel right and what doesn't look right, just by getting to know your neighbors. Again, these are all things that you might already know, or maybe it's just a reminder. But the biggest thing I think out of some like this part of it is that, like, talk about it. Talk to your neighbors and see what they have to say, because you'd be surprised that somebody might have something to say, they just haven't said it yet, and because you might be part of this group, you might have not heard it yet, right? So I mean, we can't be home 24/7, even in COVID times. We still have to work, we still have to go get groceries, we still have to run errands and that type of thing. So some people are fortunate to have more than one property, whether it's a farm besides your home, a cottage, these kinds of things. But you have to get to know your neighbors and just make sure that somebody sort of has has an eye on your property. And it might be just a simple matter of asking somebody to drive by. You don't have to be the neighbor right beside you, just somebody that lives locally. And I'm talking like for cottages or, other properties other than your residence. But, it's not a bad idea to have somebody able to just keep that eye on. I mean, we don't want to all be sitting at our windows or, our doors 24/7 either. But just to have that sense of, what's kind of going on. The benefit, I mean, the main goal is to deter crime. And I don't think we can't as police do it all on our own. We rely on the community to give us information. When we respond to calls, we have to ask questions, and we have to ask lots of questions. We take statements and we talk to neighbors and canvass to see if anybody saw anything. Businesses and now dash cams, like all of that kind of stuff is good stuff. And some people are willing to invest in their own security of their properties, which is good, but it comes at a cost, and we get that too, right? But the sad reality is that we have to do some things, and hopefully most people are willing to do that. Break and enters are one of the most prevalent crimes that we as police deal with. And now it might be a break and enter to your home. It might be outbuilding, sheds. But I know that I have a routine at home where, I make sure that, my doors are locked, my car, I make sure I hit the key fob from in the house, just to hear that gives me that sense of security. But there's some locks that are better than others. And of course, the type of locks, the type of way we protect our property with lighting and, for the little bit of electricity that some lights might cost, I'm thinking that it might give some people a better sense of security and safety for being, especially if you're out in the community on a concession road, you're a little more isolated, right? So, I mean, getting involved is again part of taking steps to getting to know your community and looking out for one another. And yeah, so the thing about Community Watch is that the farmers and the rural areas might have fewer people, but it's really important to not forget about talking to them and maybe getting them involved. So as far as the actual program, you have to, and again, this would be sort of a branch out from maybe what you already have with the community group that you have on the go right now. But setting goals and, they have to be realistic. And I mean, having meetings with, myself as a community safety officer or, Mike there, who's part of, part of the community in a different manner. It's just, getting some of this information and asking some questions, because nothing is if you want it and you think it will work, then I kind of go with it. If you don't shoot, you won't score kind of theory is that if you got to try it. And sometimes it's not as effective as other means, but you just have to keep trying. So, just what a community watch committee Zorra looks like. You've got somebody that would be your chair, somebody that would be a deputy chair, and then you've got different block captains, you've got community partners or people from different agencies. Of course, you've got the police, and I mean, they've got a treasurer in there. But because sometimes what happens is if somebody somebody's convicted of a crime and making restitution, or as part of their part of their court proceedings, is they have to make donations sometimes. So if there's an ability for a community watch program to to be a nonprofit, then you know, that's some way to have funds to be able to do things, right? So, I mean, I feel like some of this might be a little bit repetitive, but again, the biggest thing is to get to know your neighborhood and get to know your neighbors. The numbers there again, the non-emergency number, and of course 911. We don't want you to step in to, you know, risk your safety. I see you've got a question, Michael.
That's me, Patty. Just approximately when you say block, about how many houses or how big would a block typically be?
Well, I think like a block would, if I look at a block in town, you know, one block could be anywhere from like if you look at it as a square, right?
Yeah.
And you know, every single house on that entire block would be sort of managed by one person, and then the next block. So again, it just depends on how many houses that it's like, if people have single lots, double lots, right? But you know, when you think about the rural areas, then you could use a concession road as one person being responsible, or even two, because one concession road might only have 2 residents on it, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah,
that's something, yeah, that's just something that you would have to, in the planning, you know, figure out how many houses, how many concession roads, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good guideline. Yeah, I know there's not a specific answer, but that just gives me a sort of a boundary or two what to think about. Okay, that's good.
yeah, and I mean, it does depend on how many people you have too, right? So the more people that can get involved, then the better it will be.
All right, good. Thank you.
Yeah. Some tools to use, you know, to promote things, radios, newspapers, cable channels, meetings like this, social media, posters and flyers work, and of course, you know, wherever you are in your community, whatever kind of role you have with your employment, you know, you might be in the real estate market, you might you know, be part of Crime Stoppers, you don't know. There's the ability to put information in our mailings, and you know, like your bills. Some people get that online though, so there's a way. There's always a way. And again, if we don't ask, we may not you know, succeed with one thing, but you know, you try another thing. So I know of community policing groups in the past have used something similar here, like Citizens on Patrol. And you know, if you're a shift worker, for instance, and you you know, you're leaving early in the morning, or you're coming home you know, after a night shift in the morning, and you see something, it's still dark out, you know, you're gonna notice that something's just not right. Now, at some point in your particular community, you know that people are starting to wake up at a certain time because you are, right? If you're awake, then you know others might be awake. But I mean, you know, for the most part, between, you know, 11 and 7 a.m., people are sleeping, except for the shift workers, right? And you know, but that's sort of when some of them are coming home and when some of them are leaving. So it's really important for people to know what sort of the status is for a community. We don't want to get in people's business necessarily. We just want to, you know, kind of have an idea of what you know, the comings and goings maybe. And you know, by talking to people in your community, they're probably going to be pretty forthwith. They're going to say, yeah, you know, we're shift workers, and you know, we leave at this kind of time, to get to know them. But you know, that's what I'm saying is, like, for you as an individual, as part of this community watch group, you might be one of those shift workers or whatnot. But regardless, if you're going out and about, just doing your own thing, that's one thing. But if you're going to actually, you know, make a conscious effort to do some patrols, so to speak, then you always want to go with somebody else. If you're going to do anything like that, you want to let the OPP know that your community watch program are going to be out and about between this hour and this hour, for an example, and we're going to be in this type of vehicle, and then give them your names, okay? So that we know, because then, you know, as the police, we're going to know that if we come across that green minivan with the decal on the window, we know it's because you've called it in, that it's the community watch people, okay? Pretty much everybody has a cell phone nowadays, so that's a recommendation too, is to make sure you have a charged cell phone in the event that something happens when you're out and about as well. Okay, you can patrol your neighborhoods, and of course let the police know by calling one of those numbers, the 911 or the non-emergency number, if something is out of place. Okay, there's signage that can be made as well for your communities, that the community watch program is in place. And you know, will a community watch program sign in a community prevent or deter a criminal? I'm going to say that it's been known to be an effective tool, because they might think, oh, well, they've got people watching, so I'm not going to go in this neighborhood. So we have Safeguard Ontario, and you know, we as the police will come out to a residence or a business and do a safeguard assessment, and essentially we would make some recommendations for whether it's a residence or that business to come up with some ideas. And I use those examples from earlier about motion lights, cutting back your shrubs, and that kind of thing. So these are all examples of some recommendations. So if any of you now, or when we get this, if you get this program up and running, you know, want to have a safeguard assessment done, then you just have to give us a call and we can set that up. So I mean, that that slide just gives you essentially some tips on how to protect your home. And I mean, we have this available on online. If anybody's interested in receiving it via email, then you can just let us know. But you know, some of the things, like I said, we're already talked about: lighting, a proper kind of lock for your doors or outbuildings. You know, keeping your windows locked. I mean, even patio doors, you know, again, if somebody really wants to get in, they're going to break something to get in, they're going to make noise, then that's going to alert people, whether it's the homeowners or even neighbors. But you know, keeping that stick in your patio door, just to prevent them from being able to shimmy it open, right? So again, if anybody's looking for a copy of that, I can make sure that I get it sent out to Michael, and he can share it with everybody. So, you know, it's all about you and your neighbors and working together. And, you know, if the police need to, you know, come out and give you a hand for any reason, you know, we're gonna be there. But the essential you know, goal for having a community watch program is to deter crime. That's really what it comes down to. If you're thinking, you know what, I could do this, I could be involved in this, then, you know, it's definitely something to consider, and contact some people from the group. But I think that you know, except for this one here, we've got, I think I mentioned it before about being observant and looking at what people are wearing, what they are driving, and that kind of stuff. This again is definitely a document that we can get to somebody if they're interested in it. And the types of vehicles and the types of weapons. You know, you might not know that it's a Smith & Wesson. You might not know that it's a, you know, specific brand of a car, but you might be able to give a description just based on these pictures, right? Again, these are available for anybody that would want them. And that pretty much covers everything that I have for the presentation. And I don't know how many people are with us still, but if there's anybody that does have any questions, by all means, myself or Mike might be able to jump in on any of them. But I think we had a few good questions and of course some examples, right?
That was a great presentation. I just thank you very much for doing that. I've only taken 3 pages of notes so far. I'll look forward to reading the brochures. I teach at a college, so I can't help but take notes. So
Okay.
thank you. That was very informative. I noted just a couple of things. There's a lot we can do even before we do community watch, or even if the decision or people want to proceed with community watch, there's still a lot we can do. And I'm reminded by that and all those things. I'm going to go up and do a few of those things that you reminded me of as well. And also, if I might say, I really note too, community police partnership, building bridges, helping you with eyes and ears, working with you. I'm very, very supportive of that. And I'm glad to see that it is in parallel with you and supporting the activities you do. And I want to say I'm very supportive of that approach. So can I open up for questions? I mean, I've spoken, just made a couple comments. You can say, make a comment, ask a question. We will be at the Zorra Community Policing Committee July. As our next meeting is July 20th. We will be talking about it again at our community at the committee meeting. So some people might want to take time and digest it, or send me that brochure. Let me read more about it before you make comments, and that's good. This is the start of a learning process, and that will continue. So I'll open it up and see if anyone wants to say anything. I'll try to monitor, and Lisa's helping as well to help me do that, to keep a handle on things. So anybody want to say anything or ask a question? We've got them here.
Don't be shy. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Amanda, I see you there. Yep.
Yeah.
Amanda.
So what would be a first step then? So if we had some people here that's meeting today that was interested in moving forward with this, what do you recommend as a first step to get that going?
Well, I think the first step would be to get in touch with the folks that are sort of hosting the meeting tonight, like Michael and Lisa and whoever else is on the local committee there. It sounds like they would definitely be wanting to get something like this going. But again, it can't happen with just 2 or 3 people, right? There has to be a good size number to make anything like this go. So Michael, if I'm wrong on suggesting them contact you.
Well, and I'll ask, we've got our counselors here and support from the township. We felt that this was the starting point, that the Community Policing Committee would be the best place for us to then having the discussion. I think we've talked about a lot of these things, and as always, we learn. And then again, July 20th, 6 p.m. Is the time it'll be an agenda item, and we'll take it further and say, okay, now what do we do? And Amanda, that's the question, right? Where do we start? So I guess it would pick it up at the committee, unless the other town councilors want to say anything else. Yeah, I got you there, Mike. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's a lot of information that Patty gave. It's a lot of great information. Don't overthink it. I think the first thing that needs to happen is we need to mobilize the community, all the members that are, that are interested. We need to just find a way to get them to get some dialogue happening. The biggest thing about this program is mobilizing the members of the community. Remember, it's your community. The program will look the way that you want it to look. It can be very intricate, like that one slide that had a chair and a treasurer and all that, or it can be very loose where it's just an email group that is sort of communicating some problems that maybe they're having, that they want one singular point of contact to be able to call the police and say, we're having issues. Like the last meeting, we talked about ATV issues and things like that, something like that. I think to start, it's something that will grow, but to start, just mobilizing people that might want to get involved. And it could take, quite some time to have something more intricate, but that could be the first step.
Good. Thank you. Good point. Who else has got something for us here? It's always hard to get it going, but once we get going, we get an avalanche of questions, right? We got to get those first questions there are always the hardest. Well, maybe if there's not something coming up, I did make a couple of notes. One thing that I thought, reading up on what other experiences are, what I noted was an establishment and a surge of activity from a core group, and then a momentum trails off, or a response to a specific issue that will happen, and that it trails off. And that would be one concern, is that, keeping it moving, and that would be important. I don't know what your experience is, what you've seen that, but I imagine that can be a problem too with it. Any other problems or challenges you've seen these community watch committee groups have?
Well, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there, Michael. I mean, if people get involved, then they have to be motivated. They have to be, as they call them, shakers and movers, right? Because again, you can't rely on just a couple of people. And sometimes when you have a committee of people, it doesn't matter what it is, a lot of times it tends to be the same smaller group that sort of keep things going. But I mean, I don't know that you don't have to have an incentive other than just the fact that, we want to deter crime. And I think, I see we had 36 or 30, I forget what number it was now. I know some people have left the meeting, and that's fine. But I mean, we had that many people interested enough to come and listen. So, out of 36 or 7 people, you might be able to, talk to even half a dozen just new people that aren't already involved in your committee, and see what they think. A lot of times people have agendas when they get involved with committees, and that's okay. I really think that's
We all kind of have an agenda, don't we? Really, I mean, that's a tough one to call out. But even if the agenda is, I want to be part of my community and help, and that's maybe something more wholesome, that still is an agenda.
Yeah. And I mean, but because their agenda is their street in particular, that's okay, because they're going to know their street already, right? And that's a good thing. So.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please go ahead, Linda. Yeah.
So I'm Linda Collier. I live on the corner of McCarty and Stanley. One of the areas that is very prominent that the trucks are being broke into and ransacked, and we're doing all the right things. We have motion lights on every side of our house, on our deck. I've got locks on the gate. We've got dogs, so they bark, doing all these things. But again, we have a Facebook group, What's Up 10th. Every day you look on it and say, oh, well, my truck got broken into. Yes, people have locked it. And then, you get once in a while, people will say, oh yeah, I forgot to lock it. But now they're smashing into trucks. So we make sure that nothing's visible in the truck that they can see. But what can we do to get this started? Because even if we do it street by street, like, people on this street, because this is getting ridiculous, and the crime is going up. And I have valuables, and I don't want to lose my valuables, and it's getting tiring hearing all this all the time. So want to see what's happening, and you see people, oh, well, let's do something about it. I'm willing to walk around 3 o'clock, and instead of having these vigilantes start to go, because it's coming to that, because people are getting so frustrated. And I've called the police, had no response come out. No one's come out. The corner of McCarty and Stanley is start at 10 o'clock at night. It becomes to drag race, how fast we can go down north. And I can see Kate shaking her head. And Friday night, it's a drag race. All you can hear is screaming tires. And I've called and no one comes out. And yeah, you can hear them screeching, drag racing down the other side of the road. So what can we start to do to get this? You said the next meeting is July, but I think we need to look at how we get more police presence right now going on in the community. And I'm not trying to stir something up, but the community needs to be protected at this point.
Thanks for speaking up, Lynn. It's always hard to be the first one to talk about that stuff. So thank you for bringing that up. And maybe, I don't know, maybe Patty or Mike, you want to just address that. I mean, I would say call the 9 or the 1-800 number as a starting point. I know that's what I would say as a mantra almost. If we report it, at least has a chance for them to do something with it. But would you like to take that one on, Patty or Mike, and maybe respond?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. I saw you just unmute there.
Yeah, I think you've talked a lot already, Patty. I think it's probably my turn. Linda, no, thank you for your comment. The best thing that you can do is to call every single time. And I know that it's frustrating, and I know that sometimes you feel like, I called yesterday and maybe you didn't see a police officer, but it very well could have been that the police officer that works that area was busy with something else, and he may have come by, 1 hour, 2 hours later, and unfortunately that's too late, right? Because the problem is already the problem is already gone. But continue to call, because we only know that there's a pattern of problems unless we won't know unless you continue to call, and encourage your neighbors to call, and encourage everyone on your street to call, because the more calls that you get, the more police presence that is probably going to be brought to the area on a more regular basis, right? Like Patty noted, and I think the slide says something around 65% of crime is actually reported, and I would suggest that it's probably even less than that, right? And if your vehicles are getting broken into, I know that there's a lot of people, specifically in rural Ontario, that feel like they're bothering the police with a I had my truck opened up and I had a drill taken and I didn't bother calling the police. But we won't know that there's a problem unless people call. So I hear your frustration. All I can tell you is continue to call, encourage your neighbors to call, and we will come. But like I said, sometimes it takes us a while because there's only so many of us working.
Great.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for the answer. It's great. Katie, you're up.
I know Linda had a really frustrating and unfortunate break-in on her property about a year ago. So I know, once you start having personal experiences, it starts to change the lens that you look through these things on. And I believe it was a locked shed in your backyard that you had broken into. And it is really frustrating because the advice is given because it is a deterrent. It's not bulletproof. So, we are better protected when we have our things locked and we don't have our valuables in our vehicles, but that doesn't mean that we are, 100% safe. So, I remember that situation. But one of the things that I've been thinking about listening to the presentation is that some of what this sort of structured program facilitates does happen naturally within the community between people who know each other or through community Facebook group, etc. But one of the challenges or downfalls of that is that it takes time and very specific channels for people to get woven into that network. And if you just move here and you don't know a lot of people, you may not be able to get connected with it. So, I often will get phone calls or messages from people who will give me little tidbits of information. And then, there's sort of a few people around town that tend to know more about these types of things. And through discussions, we can start piecing together some information that we then can pass over to the police. And it does seem to be really helpful. And we've had some good results from it. So one of the benefits I see to sort of formalizing a program is for it to be really effective, you want as many people involved as possible. And the best way to get as many people involved as possible is to take it out of these social media groups, out of these who's known who for 20 years or whatever that is. These things that we've established are great, but the net is going to be that much wider through this formalized program that we can reach every household, and it can be something that everyone can get involved in. So I'm really encouraged by the number of people who have showed up to participate for this information session on a beautiful evening where I'm sure everyone would prefer to be going for a walk. This speaks immense volumes to how concerned we are about the safety of our communities. And I think that we really have the potential here to get a very robust program in place across the entire township. So anyways, that was a little bit more just my own personal views on this information. And yeah, I'm excited by it.
Well, that's awesome, Katie. I appreciate you saying that, all of that too, because it's so true now. This community watch, so to speak, will potentially take a little bit of time to get up and running. But I mean, I know that Michael said that there's a meeting in July
Yeah.
with
Yep.
the community policing, but that doesn't mean that you and any of the other people that are here tonight can't continue to connect. And I don't know how, I don't know if you know any of the names that are on the list, but it might go back to like sort of the basics, with flyers being made and being handed out door to door, or even if you can get them cooperate with the mail to be put in everybody's mailbox, that kind of stuff. But that's almost where we kind of have to go right back to sort of the basics and getting people informed, because like you said, not everybody is on social media. Not everybody, listens to the radio, so to speak. Not everybody gets that daily newspaper or like the local newspaper, but they're all things that are ways to communicate the information. But don't exclude social media, because a lot of people, that's all they live on social media, right? So you don't want to exclude them, but you want to kind of reach out to some of the other basic stuff that has worked in years past.
I see Amanda there. Go ahead.
Yeah. When you mentioned flyers and signs and things, are there bursaries available for costs associated with that? And another thing that pops into mind, once we get there and get established, what platform do other groups use? Like, is it email? Is there an actual database or software that members are connected through? How do other towns do it?
Yeah, as far as the bursary question, I do believe that there are bursaries, like even within our organization, that you may be able to access, but it would have to go through the channels. Like, so there is definitely something that I'm aware of, but for getting things up and running and started, I think that would have to happen, locally, like, even if it's a fundraiser of some sort. And I mean, there's also some areas, and I don't know if this area has, like your Rotary clubs and that kind of thing, that may have some funding that they would be interested in utilizing for some of these costs that would be involved. Okay. Now, as far as I know, there's no actual database where you can log into. It's something that it would be a local group, and you would stay in touch with each other, and you would have to make that decision whether it's like a group chat on text or email, whether it's a meeting every week for a couple months, or that kind of thing. That's definitely something that is tailored to your specific area and the people that want to be involved and what they're comfortable with.
Does that help, Amanda? Yeah. All right. Great. All right. I have a question then. Would you have would you say maybe just possibly do it in Thamesford and not all of Zorra? Like, it does not necessarily have to be all of everything. I mean, what's the scope? Do you have like communities within the communities that would do community watch, or is the expectation that it's something across the whole township?
Well, I mean, the Zorra Township is geographically a pretty big pretty big area,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and there's a
And-
big
and again-
difference from, groups.
Yeah, I don't know where everybody that's tuned in here tonight is from. It sounds like there's a few or several from Thamesford, just from Thamesford. But I mean, I think that if the majority of the people that seem to be interested are from Thamesford, for example, and Thamesford was able to get this up and running, then it would catch on to, you know, some of the other areas in Zorra.
Well, there's the challenge you thrown down. You don't realize what you're talking about. This is the Hatfields and the McCoys here when you start doing that. But maybe that's what it takes, right? Like that spark to get it moving and set up. I wanted to know too, I mentioned the Zorra Community Policing Committee. We will have the meeting and talk about it. That will be one place that we talk about it. I think that was a good reminder from you, Patty, that it has to happen with other things and organically, other people in small groups. Then maybe on the 20th, we say, oh, hey, what's been going on? But we're not going to just stop talking about this and then just start again at this 1.5 or 2 hour meeting. Okay, so Marcus, and then Katie, if I could. And then Barbara, can you go in? Yeah, how's that? Marcus,
A
Katie,
question
Barbara.
for Patty and Mike. Are there other active community watch programs with like the model in your slide or similar in Oxford right now, and how long have they been active for?
I'll leave this one with you, Patty. I'm not aware of another organized one in Oxford.
Yeah, and no, I think the program is there, and you know, community policing groups sort of like touch on it, but it's not actually named a community watch program.
Okay,
Thanks.
I think,
Katie,
sorry, just 1 second.
Sure, yeah.
I think we touched on the reason why there might not be. This is, and Patty, you can chime in. Community watch used to be something that was huge, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. It was something that most communities had. And I want to say that I think Katie touched on it. Since the inception of social media, I feel like it's kind of gone by the wayside where people are just chatting on social media, and that's because it's a form of community watch. People are discussing the issues within the community. They're talking about break-ins that may have happened down the streets and things like that. It's a very loosely organized sort of form of it, but I feel like that has taken place as to the boots on the ground, door to door, community mobilization, where it's sort of just part of society now, where we're inside and we're discussing it through our phones, as opposed to getting out there and walking the sidewalks and actually seeing things. Patty, do you agree?
Oh, I thought I was muted. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think social media can be a wonderful tool, and I think potentially these I forget what you called it, Katie. Let's talk Thamesford or something like that. Am I right? Something like that, anyways. And it's tends to and again, if I'm not connected to it as a police officer, which I'm not, I wouldn't know what you guys are all talking about. So I think it sounds like it's, and forgive me, but I don't want it to sound like I'm saying it's a gossip column. But if all of these things are actually happening and it's constructive, then you're saying that you can put these pieces together on your own and before you contact the police, but at some point you contact the police, then that's all good and that's great. Because if there's things that are happening and you've seen this and you've seen that, I stressed a couple of times during the presentation about safety. But if you guys are able to do that within that social group there that way, then great. But I fear that it's maybe not always constructive, I guess. And as far as the community watch, neighborhood watch, it has gone by the wayside for because you used to have the signs in your windows, right? I don't know if anybody, maybe I'm aging myself.
I remember those.
Well, there's a few people older than you on the call, Patty.
But I mean, that's what
Few of us.
you were a neighborhood watch participant, then you could go by and know that if you felt unsafe, if you needed to, get some help for whatever reason, you could go to that house, right? And I mean, I think that would be fantastic if we could get, that type of involvement again in the community.
All right, I got Patty and then Barbara, you'd be up next after, sorry, Katie and then Patty. Sorry, let me start again. Katie and then Barbara. I'm making notes here. I gotta watch. Okay, Katie, then Barbara, sorry.
So really quick comment on that. There's sort of the ebbs and flows of where it was really popular, and then social media sort of filled the gap. So it kind of went by the wayside. And I think we're kind of coming full circle where some people are getting fed up with social media and wanting to remove themselves from some of these community groups because of how some of them are going. And, this is one of the benefits to being a part of it. And people are weighing sort of the pros and cons of whether or not they want to engage. I think one of the benefits of a focused community watch group, as opposed to just having this happen organically on a community Facebook group, is that everyone who's involved theoretically is involved because they have an invested interest in the safety of their community. So the discussions that are happening and the sharing of information is for that purpose, where when it happens organically on a Facebook community group, for some people who are kind of spectating and then get involved in the discussion, it doesn't have the same intention. And that's where it can sort of be not as productive. The question, the actual raising of the hand, I couldn't help but comment, but the actual raising of the hand was, I had a question for Patty. So going back to the Michael's question about, does this start as smaller communities or the entire municipality? With my municipal hat on, I like the idea of this being Zorra wide, because that's how we generally approach things, and I like that idea. But is there an actual benefit to it being more localized? And one of the things I was thinking of is that, are there any trends or data from the OPP side that indicates that some of these crimes sort of circulate through different areas, and would information and connectivity with like-minded people who say live in Embro be beneficial to people who live in Tempsford in suspicious looking vehicles or different trends? Would there be a benefit to it actually being municipally the entire municipality for the function of the group? Or would it function better if it were more localized to the smaller communities?
Well, I think the only thing I can say is that I think it would be based on who would be like spearhead it, first of all. So let's just hypothetically say, Katie, you're our girl. Okay, so you're going to be that chair, and you have just indicated that you want this to be Zorra Township wide. So how are we going to get all of Zorra Township on board with this, right? The concept is going to be the same. It's just going to take longer, I would think, because like I say, I think you're going to have to go back to, sort of like the boots on the ground and, knocking on doors, handing out flyers, because you're not going to reach every single person in one particular manner, because of, like I said before, not everybody's on social media, not everybody gets the paper or listens to the radio, but we're gonna try to get the information out there via all of these tools, just so that, if we can't knock on everybody's door, or if not everybody's home, or if we don't have the like the flyer concept, if we can leave it in mailboxes, or slide it in somebody's door and that kind of thing. We can go around the communities, in the smaller communities, where there's grocery stores, or I'd say normally, arenas or community centers, and put these flyers, everywhere where we can find somewhere to put it, so that we get the message out there. But that, I think, is truly, you're just going to have to either like make a decision to start small and see if it can grow, or if you're going to just go the gamut. And it'll take some many steps and many pairs of shoes, though, I think, to go completely Zorra Township wide right off the hop. But it's not like, I don't want that to be, you know, a deterrent for you to, you know, but again, it's going to depend on how many people can volunteer, because that's what it really comes down to. And volunteers are priceless, right? I mean, we have so many volunteers doing so many things that, you know, some people can be volunteered so that they're kind of burnt out from volunteering, right? So but I mean, it sounds like you have like a good start to you know, accrue. There's one. There's one of our next volunteers.
Right. So I've got sort of list. I got Barbara, then Linda, then Betty, then Jeff. All right, that would be our speaker list for the moment. So Barbara, do you want to jump in with your comment or question? Yeah.
Number one, going to the, you saying about going Zorra wide or community wide like Tempsford. I grew up in London, and I know there was a lot of like just smaller community or smaller neighborhoods that did it as opposed to the whole city. So I think that would probably be the way to start. And just on a quick note, what I wanted to say is we were at the other two meetings that we had, one with all of the OPP as to what we could do, and we talked about the lights and all that.
Yep.
And then the smaller one with the policing council, and we did start to talk about doing community watch. And so really one of the reasons why we signed on to do the Zoom tonight was we sort of thought maybe that's because it was called community watch, that's what we were already going to start to talk about, because that was what, a few months ago that we had the one meeting at the BD room and we started to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and people,
you know, yeah, Barb, we didn't get nothing started going with lots of talk and discussion and so all right, well let's start from the ground source, which is the OPP, the partners in it. Let's start with this with a good amount of information, and there's a broad group of people here that many who I've never met before. So I'm glad that we have that. That tells me that there's a community-wide interest, whereas before I felt there was just a smaller group wanting to think about it. So this meeting is a big step, I would think, towards saying, well, there's interest, very much so.
yeah, because I thought the way we talked in that meeting, the last one with the policing council, that there was a good interest in it and that we were going to start to, but maybe I misunderstood from that meeting. I don't know.
Well, you know, a lot of it, Barbara, we're all, I think something, Patty, we're all volunteers and we do stuff, but also as a committee, we want to be responsive to what the community wants. And this was, I mean, I guess I like to learn as much as I can before I move forward. And I learned a lot more than I did by my own research tonight. And actually the questions, even the question you're asking, Barbara, is a great question and point to make, because your point say, okay, well, we talked about this. What's next? I thought this was the next, and now I'm finding out it's just another talk. I find that gets frustrating at times, but we got a really good support right now. Yeah, I hear you on that one.
Okay.
Right, thanks.
Just
I go back to
add to that, Michael, if you don't mind, for anybody that is joining the meeting here tonight, and I might be jumping ahead, but if anybody that doesn't know how to get in touch with you, or and I'm just going to go out there and say, Katie, like any of the couple people that are on your committee already, are you going to be able to provide them with contact information?
I would say call the township office. They've got the clerks and Lisa People is on the meeting now. And so I say I'll focus it through the township office because I might not be here or there, but then the township office can collect all that stuff. And Lisa's great, and the folks who answer the phone there, you know, if they get lots more calls, Barbara, hey, what's going on with that thing? You know, sometimes that will provoke us to do some more things too. So call the township office and just say I was heard the meeting, heard about this community watch. What do I do next? And they'll steer to the right person.
And the thing about some of these committees, Barb, just most committees or groups like this do tend to meet monthly. And that's what slows things down a little bit, because everybody has other work and other things that they're doing. So they kind of tend to agree upon a monthly meeting night. So that's why Michael said that there's a meeting in July. And anyways, we're happy to share whatever we can. And I think there's a few more questions there, but I just wanted to add that as far as the meetings and
Thank
how.
you. All right, so I got Linda, and then Betty, then Jeff, then Marcus will be on the speaker list now. So I think Linda, you were up next.
So I was just thinking what Katie has said, and Katie has been awesome support, but I was the same mindset as Barbara, that okay, what this was going to be, okay, the steps we're taking to get this in process. But Katie is right, and Officer Patty and Officer Mike, you don't know this, but on the What's Up Chelmsford, it becomes okay, it is a heads up. Marcus is awesome. Well, did you call the police? Did you call the police? But they'll say, heads up, here's my camera. Here's this guy, heads up. This guy is right in this truck is right outside the thing. What about like I said, it's quality versus quantity. So because there is such a prevalence right now in Chelmsford, you can't tell me one street that someone's not saying they're having a break-in. Start small. We've got the Lions Club has the signage. Start putting the signage outside of Chelmsford. Say we want to build a community watch program. Take the people that are very interested, and again, you have to be careful with social media because the trolls are out there, but start a community watch Chelmsford. Get that, build on your social media, because that's where everybody is right now, is on social media. Build on that social media, start advertising it, get a good group base going, show everyone how well Chelmsford can do, and then branch it out to different parts of Zorra Township, because Zorra Township is huge. But Katie's really good about keeping it in control on the What's Up Chelmsford page. Marcus is good at saying, have you called the police? Have you called the police? But that's what it becomes, Officer Patty and Mike, is people are already doing that now. They've taken that step. Hey, here's my camera. Here's what, this person looks like. Heads up, this car is going to slow up and down. So it's already in progress happening. But I was like, Barbara, okay, when are we starting this? What's the next step? So that was my understanding. But I think that's the way you need to start doing it, is we have a number of people that drive through that highway. Number 2 on Dundas, start there with the signage, get the group going separate, build that base and go from there.
Sounds like I've got a volunteer that's stepping up to be involved with it. I think, Lynn, I've got your name written down. We know who you are now.
I'm not running the festival right now because of COVID. So yeah, time on my hands, let me tell you. But
Yeah.
it becomes down to marketing is what it is. I mean, like Barbara said, we thought we're taking it forward. You have to take it up into the marketing. You got to move to that next step of marketing, building that up, right?
Yep. Great stuff. All right, now I've got Betty, and then Jeff, and then Marcus. Betty?
I just want to make a comment as a rural resident that as much as I understand Chelmsford wanting to start their own group, I also, as not being part of one of the small communities, just being part of Zorra Township, I'd hate to see the rural ones just totally left out of this. And I think you may want to focus on Chelmsford, but I don't see any Embro people here. And I could be wrong. I might just not recognize any names. But I think there's other communities, and I think I live in Zorra, but I'm close to Ingersoll, but still I wouldn't want to be excluded just because I don't live in Chelmsford. So I think it needs to get out to all of the community so that everybody understands. And I mean, I do the same thing. Call the cops. Have you called the cops? Star OPP. That's my mantra, Star OPP. So I really think that as much as it would be great to just start it in Chelmsford, I don't want to see you exclude the rest of the township just because we don't live in a town.
Yep. Yeah, and
Just my comment.
Yeah, no, and I get that there, but like, do we start it there? And maybe that's the role for the community policing committee, is that as community watch develops, we just keep an eye on and say, hey, what's happening in different places? I don't know. We'll have to think of how we manage that. I hear your point. I got Jeff Brown, and then Marcus after that. You're on. Got to get you to unmute there.
Here, sorry.
There you go. You're good. Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Second year in Chelmsford, and I'm just noticing trends from the first year I was here, first spring. Drilling down on the trends, it started with probably the same group. They'd started the north end of town, worked to the main part of town, and then coming to Chelmsford Springs. And this spring, it was the same kind of thing. We had the people that are doing the same sort of thing. They start in the north end of town, hit the center of town, come down Stanley, down into Chelmsford Springs. You could just see them come, they just keep moving and moving. So there's trend setting, and I'm sure the OPP probably tracks some of that. That's one way. I'm just throwing this out there. I've just noticed trends. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
And that's, as a new person coming in, I'm a new person too, Jeff. You're going to have to be here 30 years before you're, by the way, part of the community, right? It takes a while. But I hear you. And that's great to have someone new. And welcome, by the way, to Zorra.
Thank you.
Just to quickly comment there about the trends, we do have analysts that are able to, break all of this kind of stuff down for us. So again, as Mike mentioned, we encourage you to call.
Great. All right, Marcus, you're up.
Yeah, so first I would just, in addition to what Patty said, I would say call. Because that's, in all my conversations with Inspector Heimers, that's what he reinforces all the time, is the data analysis that the OPP do, and that and the patrol routes are all predicated on where the calls come from. And one of the most common requests that I get from residents is we want more police presence in this area or that area. And I say, that's already built into the policing model that we have, which is the police go where they get calls. So they don't go to the roads where there is nothing happening. They go to the roads where something is happening. So even if you are, residents will frequently say, well, I didn't call because the person was gone. I said, it doesn't matter. By not calling, what you're ensuring is that the police will not be there the next time something happens, because as far as they're concerned, nothing happens there. So we all, whether you live on Sloan in Chelmsford or like I do on a gravel road in a rural area, we all have to call and give the police all the data that they can get in order to plan their patrol routes and be where they need to be. If we don't tell them to be there, then we can't be mad at them for not being there, because by not reporting, we have told them there's no problems here, don't come here, go to those other places where people are reporting. The other thing I wanted to say to, it was largely what you said, Michael, to Barbara and Linda. I think this presentation today has made it clear that with respect to this type of solution to policing issues, it's first and foremost dependent on volunteers, on residents stepping forward. So I think, from my point of view, that's the only thing this is waiting on, is for some people to say, I am willing to be one of those people and fill some kind of a role in some kind of an org chart to get this off the ground, and then make an approach to the township to say, what would this relationship be like with the township? And I think you've seen from the presentation that Patty made that there are models for an organization and relationships. But and obviously, you have a Zorra Township Council and you have OPP officers here tonight, and the Zorra Community Policing Committee gets various different OPP officers to their meetings. So those pieces are in place. What we would need to get this off the ground would be residents to step forward and say, I want to be a member, a block captain, a volunteer, whatever, and get it off the ground. And we'd be, we'd start the ball rolling, and it'd turn into, as I think Patty said in her presentation, it'd turn into, or I think it was Mike in his comments afterwards, it'd turn into whatever those members, however they wanted it to work. So so to anybody who's thinking they would be willing to do it, I would suggest you talk amongst each other, and then either talk again to Zorra Community Policing Committee or talk directly to your counselor about, how do we approach council to make this thing happen.
Great. Thank you, Marcus. Mike, you're up next.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on something Marcus said. So, and not to give all the information out, but when you're talking about trends, Jeff, and Linda, you're talking sort of about the same thing. Just so everyone knows, we get on a weekly basis a crime analyst report from our West Region crime analyst unit. So it's requested by the inspector and by our operations manager that weekly we get this report that sort of plots out generally everything that has happened, but it also specifically starts plotting out where trends are, right? And the trends are all based on calls for service. They're all based on people calling, right? We can't sort of just assume that, you know, if I'm sure you can imagine, we get the big map of Oxford County and there's a bunch of blue dots that indicate thefts from motor vehicles and a bunch of red dots that would indicate break-in enters, and they're sort of scattered all over this big map. But you know, if I'm just going to use Zorra as an example, if they've had 6 break-in enters or they've had 6 thefts from motor vehicles, but because it was maybe the person thought it was minor in nature, or they thought that the person's gone, so they didn't bother calling the police. Well, there's no dots on that map, right? There's no dots at all on that map that show that Zorra in the last week has had 6 theft from motor vehicles, all on Stanley Street. And I'll tell you, and I know that Patty would agree with me, because she goes to those same meetings that I go to every single week. The inspector will say, okay, so we've had a problem here. There's a trend happening here in Zorra out on Stanley Street. They've had 5 break-ins to vehicles this past week, and they'll look to me as one of the patrol sergeants to say, I need you to assign people to make sure that we're doing some extra patrols in the area, that we're doing some proactive work. We're getting the officers out on bicycles in the evening, in the middle of the night, as another tool to sort of hopefully help deter crime or catch the perpetrators, right? But if we don't call, then we don't know the trends, right? And I think as far as, and I'm just going to touch on another point, because I can hear the frustration and some of the people on the call that sort of thought that this was going to be the day that we were going to develop the program and we were going to move forward, that to start, develop those trends. You develop those trends by calling. So if in a month, when the committee meets again and something more tangible is put forward, we can say, hey, we're putting it forward based on these trends that we've been able to sort of identify based on over the past month. People in Zorra Township have been calling the police like crazy because they were reporting everything, which is great. And we have all of these trends now in order to sort of focus our attention on it, as opposed to rumors. Sometimes we think that there's a problem over here, but we don't have any hard data that sort of tells us there's a problem over here. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm a data guy. I like collecting data. I like parsing data, dealing with data sets. But yeah, but the collection point is us. And we're the eyes and ears, and we can do that and continue to do that. And whether, you know, without community watch, we can still do that. So I hope we will. Katie, you're up next.
I put my hand down and in my mind, I thought I had unmuted. I hadn't, sorry. I think for some people, they have either firsthand or heard a story where someone has reported and it hasn't resulted in an outcome that they view as a positive result. And then they can be dismissive of the idea of reporting. But I think what Mike and Patty have explained to us is that sometimes a call means getting a bad guy or lady, but sometimes it means contributing to that data that is going to help, dictate where future patrols are going to happen, which in the long run can be that result. Is just not necessarily what we see. I've been involved in 2 in the last week and a half, where I've called Star OPP, or I've been in direct contact with someone who's called Star OPP, the non-emergency line. And both times I've had phenomenal response and had great outcome. I had someone who was concerned for their safety, called the line, had an officer show up right away. And the officer was able to track down the person that was of concern and was able to sort of rectify the situation. It ended up being not as bad as it could have been, but someone had an uneasy feeling, and OPP were there. They were there really quick, got a great description and were able to track someone down. So I think sometimes we don't always hear those positive outcomes. The other one was about the ropes at the hydro wires at the trail that were right at neck height across the jumps. And you know, I just called Star OPP actually the morning after. I'd heard about it the night before, and I had an officer out right away, and she immediately had a second officer out, and it was documented. It was shared on through OPP's social media page. There was a newspaper article about it, great awareness in the community. So I think, you know, don't let those stories of, or even a personal experience that feels like it hasn't been productive, don't let that be the deterrent from making calls, because it won't always feel productive. But hopefully we've learned tonight that it really will. And I have a question for just sort of responding to some of the direction that I'm hearing sort of from Marcus and from Michael. My understanding is that the meeting that we held in the BD room was sort of information. The intention was information so that the community could better arm itself to be better protected against these types of attacks, because there was such a surge in them, which I think has, you know, it's kind of just done this, but it stayed up. Where this one is really investigating what would this program actually look like for our community, and is that interest there? So would the next step be within, I mean, obviously for the community to continue doing those things and making those reports, but for the Zorra Community Policing Committee to discuss at our next meeting sort of thoughts coming out of this presentation, and then start generating connections in the community with these interested volunteers who can potentially be the block leaders, and start getting those, like we've talked about communication methods, like between Zorra Now, we send out information with tax bills to all residents in the municipality. We have the Village Voice. Those are three separate things right there that I can think of that are free publications that reach, and social media, sorry, that's four, that reach pretty wide across the township.
Yeah, I would say it certainly would be an agenda item, but there's community watch and there's a community policing committee, and we're not going to become the community watch committee. I wouldn't think, because we have a broader mandate, but I think right now, I guess we've got the what's the word? Our hands are on the bicycle handles kind of thing as we're pedaling, so we can be part of keeping it moving. We won't let it drop. I don't know exactly what to do with it yet, because I'm somewhat overwhelmed with all we've learned today. But also I'm excited by what I learned today too. It's a lot different than what I was thinking before I got here. So Marcus, you're up.
Yeah, just in response to Katie, I think, yeah, I hope people aren't thinking that the Zorra Community Policing Committee would become a community watch, because that's not what those that's not what those volunteers on the Community Policing Committee signed up for, and it's certainly not what that committee was created by council for. So that's not what that group is going to be. I think that you know, that's not to say that people who are on Community Policing Committee can't be on the community watch. They can be, but I mean, that's
there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of cross interaction for sure.
Well, I don't know if there will be or not. It's up to them if they want, right? You know, maybe everybody on the Zorra Community Policing Committee will say they do want to be part of it. Maybe they won't. Maybe some will. It's up to them. It's not up to me to tell them what to do. So if some of them have the time and the interest, then they can do it. And if they don't, then they don't have to. They've already, and you know, from my perspective, they've already signed up and are volunteering in their community to be on the Community Policing Committee. So it's not for me to say that they need to do more than that already. So I think there's definitely the possibility for overlap, though, for people who do. But I think if people want to start the group, they can certainly, as I said before, I think they can approach the Zorra Community Policing Committee for a recommendation or more discussion around what the Community Policing Committee knows and whether people there want to be in it. But I think there isn't necessarily a requirement for that. I mean, residents can just decide, you know, if Barbara and Linda decide that they really want to do this and they want to make it happen, they can talk amongst each other and they can approach council and say, we want to do this. Like, how do we get it going? I think we've got the how do we get it going 101 tonight. I think, you know, yes. If there was people stepping up to say, I would actually like to fill in, I would like to have my name be in one of those boxes in the slide. I think that's a next level conversation to have. But I think the first step on that next level is, do we have people who are willing to put their name in some of those boxes? Because until there's people willing to put their names in those boxes, you know, it can't happen. The township can't wave its hand and create a community watch program, right? Well, we can create one, but it'll be empty if nobody comes forward to say they want to do it. So I think that's the key thing at this point. I don't know if that answered your question, Katie. I think you know most of what I just said, but
Yeah, follow up on that, Katie? Did you want to follow up?
I was just wondering if there was a way to sort of streamline the communication on this, so that, you know, if Linda and Barb are both thinking, yeah, we'd love to get involved in this, but who specifically, like we've said, contact your counselor or reach out to ZCPC. Should there be some sort of, you know, send an email to the Zorra admin page or something? Like how do we organize the networking to the initial networking? And my only thought was, if ZCPC took the lead on initiating it, and then whoever actually leads it takes it from there, that there be a sort of an organized point of contact to get it started, and then from there it can go. I would expect that, what do we still have here? 27 people still in. At the most I saw 39 people that tuned in, 2 of which are already working this on the regular. So 37 who are interested enough. I bet you those 37 are all like, yeah, I'll participate. I may not want to be a block leader, but I definitely want to participate. You know, we don't have a capture of who's all here tonight. You know, some of us are, like, I see Brandy's Vonkin and I see her full name and I know exactly who she is and where she lives, and I know she's going to be right into this, and someone's name is User. So is there a way that people who are interested, who want to be looped into whatever communication goes out from whoever takes the lead on this, for them to send that information to a single source at this point, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a particular answer. Marcus, I'm kind of open. I mean, I think as you know, since we called the meeting and we set it up, there's a sense of, you know, keeping a handle on it and keeping it moving, and I'll do that. But I'm not. I don't know what that point would be. That's a process issue, I think.
well, I guess yeah. So I like process-wise, I agree with you, Katie. That would be a great way to do it. Would be to work it through ZCPC. My only hesitation with that is that whenever I see any initiative like this, whether it's for a community watch program or a splash pad or anything like that, it, you know, and Patty spoke to it in her presentation, there's an issue of sustainability, right? That you know, how is this thing going to be sustained? And the reality is these things are sustained by passionate people, by people who say, I want to do it, I'm willing to do it, and I'm going to keep doing it. That's how these things happen. They're generally, in my personal opinion anyway, they are not sustained by process. There's a process to go through to make it happen, but that doesn't sustain it in and of itself. So, you know, I don't know if Patty or Mike, if you have any thoughts about if individuals who are here tonight were willing to say, I'm willing to put my name in a box. Do you guys have any suggestions as to whether would they contact one of you next, or do you think they should go through Zorra Community Policing Committee or approach the council directly to set up the program?
Well, I think it is a tough question. I think because I don't know if the people that aren't part of the Zorra Community Policing that are tuned in here were thinking that was how it was going to happen. But I think essentially someone just has to take the horn and just say, okay, I'm gonna tonight be that contact person. And you know, whether it's, you know, Michael, Katie, council, whoever, if someone's willing to do that for the sake of this, and so that you can at least start moving forward. And I mean, realistically, I mean, if we were to say to all of the people that are listening and watching right now, the 27 people, excluding myself maybe and Mike, and I don't know, to say who would be willing to be part of this group, just to put your hand up right now. And then we can
Well,
take a
Tori's
list
got
of
her hand
names.
up already, so I think she pre-volunteered.
Yeah. All right, Tori,
Yeah,
you're
that
up.
one, Tori.
But does that make sense? Like, I mean, if somebody's
No,
here tonight,
absolutely, Patty. That's exactly what I was thinking, that, that's what makes these things all, again, like I said, whether it's making a splash pad happen or a community watch program, that's always the difference, is one or two people to say, I'm actually willing to put my name down and step up and do the work. And that's what it takes. Yeah.
and I mean, it does kind of put people on the spot, but I mean, sometimes that's okay. And again, Tori, I see that you have your hand up there. I don't know if it's for a question or if it's
Oh,
because
no, she's on the speaker list, but after you're done answering the question, Tori's up next. Yeah, I've already sent her a little chat. No, you're up next after the answers.
Okay. So, I mean, like Katie said, she can recognize a name because somebody's full name was on there, but I guess I'll put it out there. I mean, I'm the community safety officer for Oxford County. So if there's anybody that's willing to be part of this startup group to see if we can get something running in Zorra Township.
There you
I
go.
guess-
We got a name. There you go. A hand up. There you go.
So,
Thank you for that.
I am willing to start if Officer Mike said you want to trend. I'm willing to start on the WhatsApp Tensor page, make a separate community watch page, ask people. There's actually a map you can have, and you can actually pin where people have had an incident, have them pin their incident, and have them that they have reported it. And then, yeah, I'm willing to step into this.
Sounds like you're being dragged into this, aren't you? You're trying to
No,
slide
I
up the
want to
hill, but
stay
it's
for
slippery.
community. I want to stay for community. That's the bottom. But
Well,
I'm
also
willing because
you're motivated too. You've had some incidents that specifically affected you, and
Yeah.
that's what's driving you, right? Yeah.
and I hear Marcus and I have the three stooges going through my head. Who's on first? Well, who was on first and what did this and nobody did it and somebody was supposed to do it and kind of thing. So I'm willing to go, and Katie's on the WhatsApp Tensor page and we'll make it, she can, if someone says, well, why are you doing this? Well, because of this, tonight we're creating a separate page. If you've had an incident, please post it on this. We'll make a map with you can actually pin where your incident's been, make sure that it's called, make sure that we start tracking that, and even start looking at, okay, who's interested, because there's a lot more people in this community that's on this thing tonight.
Yep.
So start, okay, give me a name of your street, give me a name of what's your name, and are you interested? Not a vigilante group. We're not going around with, the baseball bat with the barbed wire. That's not what this is about. But, if you're interested, for your street, I want to start helping out, start getting names, because this is how we get people to actually start making that commitment. So I'm willing to do that part of it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
well, so I've started a list of names here. So Linda, you're at the top of the list. It looks like, I think, Katie, I think I've got you down as well. Now, again, sorry, Tori, I can see you still have your hand up there.
She's got
and
a
I don't
question
know-
she wants to ask. Yep.
Is she the next person to talk?
Yeah, she's up on the speakers list. All right, Tori, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for speaking up.
So I heard your idea, Linda, and I liked it. I just had an idea. If we had everyone call into the township, like we were talking about, and then, I don't know, left it for 2 weeks, or we give a time frame on how long we want to leave it, and we collect the people's names or numbers, and then maybe we could add them to another meeting like this, and then those are the people that we want to go from there, and then we can set up, okay, you're going to be chair, you're going to be treasurer, and then we can go from there. It was just an idea of,
Well, we got your name now. Now, one of the challenges is, I wish that we could just say, well, hey, in a couple of weeks, let's get together at the park and have a talk, or let's get together and, talking about the Zoom thing in the pandemic challenges us. It doesn't mean we still can't do something though. And, so I think that what you're proposing is the things that are going to start it, Tori and Linda, and I appreciate that. That's cool.
But I think, Michael, I think, first of all, I think Tori's bang on. She gets how this stuff works. For people who don't know, she's a firefighter. So she understands these kinds of
Oh,
org
impressive.
structures and everything. So she gets that. So there's some insight there. But also I would say that, you know, we do enter step one reopening tomorrow. 3 weeks after that, if everybody follows the rules and if everybody gets vaccinated, then 3 weeks after that, step two. So I'll just put in my little plug there. It is literally up to us now. So everybody follow the rules and get vaccinated. Anyway, I'll step down now. But I would just say, so the ability, I think, for, you know, the Zoom meetings can happen, but also for what Tori's talking about, you know, after tomorrow, I think it's 10 can gather outside for things. And then 3 weeks after that, I can't remember what it goes up again. So, you know, I think the ability to do this kind of work is at hand, let's say.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we're again, yes, we're on a trend. Hang in there, keep going. We're going to get there. Don't give up yet. And yes, we can see that, but that momentum. Well, you know, I've got 8:52, which is getting close to 9. Now, I don't see any other questions or anybody on the speaker list yet, and we're trailing down. Is it okay to say this is the start of something, not the end? At the very least, the very latest, it will be on our. We'll talk about it at the community policing committee in about, you know, a month or a bit or 5 weeks. But I'm hoping that when we have the meeting, a bunch of people say, this is all the stuff we did. This is all that happened. Just go, wow, you guys are really moving along here. How can we help? Right. So I'm hoping that we'll at least maybe touch base with it again then. So it won't stop. It won't stop. And I appreciate, Patty, for you stepping up with that. And yes, I got a list of some names here too. So it's great. All right. Well, if that's it, I'll wrap up. I want to thank.
Sorry, 1 sec.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Amanda. Yeah.
Just to be clear, just to keep the momentum going, is the direction then to simply call into the township number and provide your name and contact information to say, I attended tonight, or I didn't, I heard about it, I'm interested, I want to be a part of it. Is that the direction we want to put out there? And then
okay? Can we actually ask the township to collect some names, and then I'll be talking with Lisa and see what we need to do. Maybe send them a brochure or something.
Let me just ask, Lisa, you're there, correct?
I'm here. Yep.
Yeah,
And
Lisa love that.
So would you be able to just compile a list of those names as people called in?
absolutely. I just sent a note to all the girls who are on the incoming call list for the township. If
Thank
anybody
you.
calls and wants to be part of it, take their name, phone number, email address, and send it to me. I'll compile them, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Lisa's already got a plan.
Sounds
So
good.
the only thing I want to say after that is that's really all Lisa can do with it,
Right.
is compile that list, right? Some resident, you know, maybe somebody has an idea of who it's going to be already, but somebody's going to have to say, you know, I want to be the one to call those people together and have a meeting.
Yep. We need that. All right. Well, I want to very much thank Patty and Mike for attending. You know, that's what we make relationships face to face. We get to know each other, and it develops more confidence in those people around us. So thank you very much. It was really, really informative, and to hear your comments and then the supporting activities. I would also, I want to throw out a thanks to Lisa. She makes this very easy. I get to chair these meetings, and it looks like I actually kind of organized it, but really Lisa organizes it and does the work and sends me reminders, and here's my crib notes and my cheat, you know, the notes. And so, you know, I really appreciate that she's keeping her camera off. She probably always does, but there's a lot that goes on to make these happen. I want to thank Lisa very much for doing that.
Appreciate it, Lisa.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And support from the Township Council, and Marcus and Katie and others who are here, and also from my committee and to the community members and those who stepped up. This is really very exciting. So we'll take it on and we'll do something with it, and we'll see what happens. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I know that you're recording the meeting, so I assume it records the chat too. So for Lisa's sake, some people already put some information in there. you know, just to, before we sign off, I just want to say, you know, like, again, thanks for Mike for coming out and joining me to
Thanks,
give
Mike.
this information to all of you. And I am here for you guys as well as the community safety officer for Oxford OPP. So everybody have a great rest of your evening and take care. And I look forward to receiving an email with all of these names on it.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Take
All right,
care.
see you later. Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
All right.
Bye,
I'll let-
thanks.
I'll let Lisa end the meeting. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.